Norman, I understand there's been a major crime figure with links to Jamie the Iceman Stevenson, who was jailed for 6 years last week. For those who don't know, who is Jamie Iceman Stevenson?
Well, first of all, for those regular listeners and readers' Daily Record, they'll be familiar with Jamie Stevenson, nicknamed the Iceman. For those who are not so familiar, he's a major organised crime figure and has been in Scotland for the last 20 years or so. Stevenson's currently serving a 16-year sentence following his conviction at the High Court in Glasgow in October 2024. He'd been arrested and been in custody for a number of years awaiting trial, and had been detained by and arrested by police for his involvement in organised crime, and in particular, a £100 million consignment of cocaine, which had been trafficked from Ecuador and had been stopped at a port in the south of England, and had been destined for Glasgow. He was sentenced to 16 years for that, reduced from 20 on appeal. And Jamie Stevenson had previously served a 12.5-year sentence, or been sentenced 12.5 years, 2007, for his involvement in organised crime. So we know Jamie Stevenson, his nickname is Iceman, is a major international, global crime figure involved in organised crime. Though he's originally from Scotland, he'd made international connections, as quite a number of our major crime figures have, and he'd been a major target for the police, as I say, currently serving a 16-year sentence. We're going to talk about a guy called Stephen Jamieson. Now, Stephen Jamieson was close associate of Jamie Stevenson. Stephen Jamieson is another major organised crime figure who's been under the police radar for the last 20 years or so. He appeared at the High Court in Glasgow last week, pled guilty to being involved in trafficking large consignments of cocaine, heroin, and a kind of street drug called etisalam. It's Class C, but it's a kind of prescription drug that's quite often abused, and it's highly addictive and makes a lot of money for people involved in organised crime. Now, the interesting thing about Jamieson, he's a 43-year-old. Jamieson pled guilty to the offences, was given six years, reduced from 9 years because of the guilty plea. The allegations against him in relation to the drugs trafficking was on a 54-day period in 2020. Now, around about that time, the French police cracked a sort of secret encrypted mobile phone messaging service called EncroChat that about 60,000 people worldwide have been using, particularly criminals, because it enabled basically criminals to communicate with each other, message each other, and do their business, such as drug dealing. So the French police had cracked this code, passed the names on to the Scottish police, and one of them was Stephen Jamieson. Stephen Jamieson then became a target for the police. By this time, he was living in Dubai, as a number of major crime figures had moved there in recent years. He'd been living in Dubai since 2013. There was a warrant issued for his arrest in December 2023. There was various kind of comings and goings, and he was eventually arrested by the Dubai authorities in United Arab Emirates in July last summer. And eventually he agreed to be extradited back to Scotland and was flown back to Scotland in December this year, subsequently appeared at the High Court in Glasgow. So it's an interesting one. Stephen Jamieson is one of these individuals who appears to have enjoyed a lavish lifestyle. He'd been based in Dubai since about 2013. He enjoyed, as it came out during the trial, he enjoyed travelling to Dubai, Barcelona, buying watches. He bought a £146,000 Jeep, from his life of crime. He'd become close friends with Jamie Stevenson, became business partners, effectively criminal associates. They'd met in prison while they were both serving prison sentences. I'll come to that in a minute. And they'd, prior to the arrest, they enjoyed holidays together in Dubai and Barcelona, and were very close, probably Stevenson's closest ally, two people that kind of trusted each other and worked in tandem with each other.
So this is a pretty significant coup in getting him tied down.
It's a major coup for the police. It's a joint operation between Police Scotland, the National Crime Agency, which is kind of Britain's FBI, and the police authorities in Dubai. And it was quite interesting that there was various comments issued by these three bodies, and one of them, Sinead Collins from the Crown Office, talked about him being a significant figure in Scotland's serious organised crime landscape. So we're not talking about some kind of middle of the road drug dealer. We're talking about a guy right at the top of the tree. This is it's usually a major coup for the police. It's a major crime figure. It's often said, that the police get the street dealers or the middle ranking guys. But what we've seen in recent years, following this cracking of this EncroChat, is that it's given them a kind of treasure trove of information, very damning information on people like Jamie Stevenson. Also, we talk about Stephen Jamieson and others, which we've talked about in the past. I'm just going to refer back, interesting enough, to when Jamieson, his last appearance in court was in the High Court Glasgow, was in October 2009, and he was jailed for 8 years. And it was during this prison sentence, I believe that he got to know and became friends with Jamie Stevenson. And that at the time was the biggest organised crime investigation ever launched by police. It was over 15 months. Then Strathclyde Police, involving over 100 officers. They seized £9 million worth of drugs, machine guns, other weapons, 7 luxury cars, and £500,000 in cash. So that was already Stephen Jamieson. We're talking about the best part of 20 years ago, has already been a kind of identified he'd been involved in organised crime. And the interesting thing, which we've talked about in the past, is just kind of showing the money to be made. Then it was heard that Stevens had used the profits to buy a £115,000 Lamborghini and a puppy dog for £1,800. And they heard stories about individual members of the gang were making something like £20,000 a day from drugs, and the people that they were supplying to further down the chain were making anything between £500,000 and £800,000 from drugs. So it goes to show, maybe we try to emphasise it, and we say, well, why do so many people get involved in organised crime? But the police seem to be so good at bringing those to justice. I think it's the money there, the lavish lifestyle to be enjoyed.
Money talks.
Money talks. And though we've seen a lot of people, obviously the Iceman, we've seen Jamieson now in prison, there's plenty of other people willing to take their place.
Yeah, and of course this will be an ongoing problem for police, obviously across the world, but especially when these voids open, someone steps in. It'll be
well, that's the thing we'll come to. I mean, the Iceman, Jamieson, was known as a kind of Tony Soprano. He was a kind of real life Tony Soprano. And these guys go to prison, but they come out eventually. A lot of the guys that we've written about and talked about recently, we know that they continue to run their operations from prison. We know that they've got money sitting in the bank somewhere when they come out, and a lot of them just seem to go back into that organised crime lifestyle. The prison sentences, though, are quite hefty, don't seem to be a deterrent.